The Toyota Supra is gone. The Mazda RX-7 is gone. The Nissan Silvia is gone. Every single one of them was faster than the car I'm about to tell you about. Every single one of them is dead, and this one is still on sale today. Right now, in 2026, you can walk into a Mazda dealership and buy a brand new one. Same idea, same size, same purpose it had in 1989. The entire golden generation of affordable Japanese sports cars was wiped out, killed by emissions rules, by rising costs, by a world that wanted SUVs. And the only survivor was the slowest one of all. No turbo, no all-wheel drive, no legendary engine, no rally titles, nothing at all that made the others famous. Around 120 horsepower from a small 4-cylinder engine in a car that cost less than almost every rival on the road. On paper, it should have been the first to die. Instead, it outlived every single car that beat it. So how does that happen? How does the least powerful car in the room end up being the last one standing? The answer says something about cars and something about everything else. The story of the MX-5 begins with a type of car that was already dead. In the 1960s, if you wanted pure, simple driving joy, you bought a small British Roadster. Tiny, light, open-topped, barely any power. They were magical to drive. They were also quite famously unreliable. They leaked, they rusted, they broke down. And by the 1980s, the whole category had essentially vanished. Not because people stopped loving them, but because people stopped being able to live with them. The joy was real. The ownership was miserable, and the world quietly moved on. And then somebody at Mazda asked a very simple question. What if you built one of those cars that actually worked? Not faster, not more powerful, not more advanced, just the same magic, with Japanese engineering underneath it. Something you could drive every day in the rain for years, and it would simply start every morning. On paper, it made no sense at all. The market had already proven that nobody wanted small, slow, impractical two-seaters. The numbers said don't do it. They did it anyway. In 1989, Mazda launched the MX-5. Barely any power at all. Rear-wheel drive, 2 seats. A canvas roof you could fold with one hand while sitting still. It was slower than almost every sports car on sale, and people fell in love with it instantly. To understand why, you have to understand what Mazda was actually chasing. Because it wasn't speed. There's a Japanese phrase the engineers used for this car, jinba ittai, horse and rider as one. It comes from mounted archery, the idea that a great rider doesn't control the horse, they become part of it. No conscious commands, no delay between thought and movement, just one thing, moving together. That was the design brief, not a number, a feeling. And once you know that, every decision about this car starts to make sense. The gear lever is short and mounted high, so your hand barely leaves the wheel. The seat sits low, right in the middle of the car, so you feel it rotate around you. The steering is light and immediate. They obsessed over the sound of the exhaust. They obsessed over the weight of the door when it closed. Things that appear on no specification sheet anywhere. Things you can only feel. And above all, they obsessed over weight. Every component was questioned. Every bracket, every panel, every fastening. Not to save money, to save grams. Because here's the secret the MX-5 understood better than almost any car ever made. Power is what makes a car fast in a straight line, but lightness is what makes a car feel alive. A light car changes direction the instant you ask. It brakes shorter. It communicates everything through your hands. A heavy car with twice the power can be quicker in every measurable way, and still feel like you're operating a machine instead of driving one. That's the trick. The MX-5 isn't fast, but at 40 miles an hour on a good road, with the roof down and your hand resting on that short little gear lever, it gives you more of what driving actually feels like than a supercar gives you at 100. And crucially, you can use all of it, all the time, legally. Nothing else offered that. The 1990s were the golden age of the affordable Japanese sports car. If you had a modest budget and a pulse, The choices were extraordinary. And then, in the space of about 5 years, almost all of them died. The Mazda RX-7, the rotary masterpiece, the most beautiful shape of the decade, gone. The Toyota Supra, with the strongest engine anyone ever put in a road car, gone. The Nissan Silvia, the Honda Prelude, the Toyota Celica, all of them, gone. The reasons weren't romantic. Japan's economy collapsed and the money for glorious side projects vanished overnight. Emissions and safety regulations got stricter and heavier every year, and every new rule added cost and weight to cars whose entire appeal was being light and cheap. Buyers wanted space and height and comfort. A small two-seat sports car became a very expensive way for a company to make almost no money at all. One by one, the accountants won. And here's the part that still stings. None of these cars died because they were bad. Not one of them. They died because the world stopped having room for them. And in the middle of all that, the MX-5 just kept going. New generation in 1998, another in 2005, another in 2015. Still 2 seats, still rear-wheel drive, still not very powerful, still, somehow, alive. So why this one? There are real answers, and they're worth understanding because they're not luck. The first is that it never depended on power. The cars that died were built around big, thirsty, complicated engines. Turbos, rotaries, 6 cylinders. When emissions rules tightened, those engines became impossible to justify. The MX-5 never had one to lose. Its modest, simple engine could always be updated to meet whatever came next. The thing that made it unimpressive is exactly the thing that saved it. The second is that it was affordable to build and affordable to buy. A simple, light, small car with no exotic technology is cheap to make. That meant Mazda could actually sell enough of them to justify keeping it alive, which is precisely what the expensive, complicated cars could not do. The Supra and the RX-7 were extraordinary machines that not enough people could afford. The MX-5 was a good machine that almost anybody could. It became the best-selling 2-seat sports car in history. Not by being the best, by being possible. But the third reason is the one I find genuinely remarkable. Mazda never let it grow up. Almost every car in history gets bigger, heavier, and more expensive with each generation. It's practically a law. The car succeeds, the company adds features, the weight creeps up, and 20 years later, the spiritual successor is a 2-ton luxury coupe with nothing left of the original idea. The MX-5 refused. When the third generation started getting heavier, Mazda looked at it, decided they had drifted, and made the fourth generation over 200 pounds lighter than the one before it. Think about how rare that is. A company, decades in, with a proven hit on its hands, voluntarily giving back size and weight and features, because keeping them would betray the point of the car. Most companies would have made it bigger and called it progress. Most companies did. That's not engineering, that's discipline. And that, I think, is the real lesson hiding inside this small, slow, cheap little car. Every car we've talked about on this channel was chasing something. The Supra chased indestructibility. The Evo chased victory. The RX-7 chased a better idea of an engine. The MR2 chased the layout of a supercar. They were magnificent, all of them. And they were all chasing a number. More power, more grip, more speed, more proof. Numbers can always be beaten. And when the world changed, the numbers stopped making sense. And the cars stopped existing. The MX-5 was never chasing a number. It was chasing a feeling. The feeling of a machine that moves when you think. And feelings don't go out of date. Technology does. Records do. Specifications absolutely do. Every impressive figure from 1995 is embarrassing now. But nobody has ever improved on joy. 120 horsepower was modest in 1989, and it's modest today. But the sensation of a light car on a good road at sunset with the roof down has never once been improved on. Not by anybody. That's why it's still here. Not because it was the best, not because it won anything, but because it knew exactly what it was. and it never once pretended to be something else. Everything around it tried to be faster, bigger, more impressive. And everything around it is now a memory. The little car that was never trying to win is the only one that's still winning. There's something almost hopeful about that, isn't there? We've spent a lot of time on this channel saying goodbye to cars, watching brilliant things disappear because the world moved on without them. This time, we don't have to. This one is still out there, still being built, still doing exactly what it set out to do in 1989. And still, somehow, the best answer anyone has found to a very simple question. What if driving was just fun? So here's my question for you today. What's the car that made you smile the most? Not the fastest one. Not the one worth the most money. The one that made an ordinary drive on an ordinary road feel like something. Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and they're honestly the best part of doing this. And if you've got an MX-5 sitting outside right now, go and drive it. That's the whole point of it. I'll see you on the next one.